Hi, and welcome to this bonus lecture in our drip irrigation course. And in this lecture, I want to talk a little bit about how to actually balance out your watering needs when you're using point source drip irrigation. We've gone through a lot of information already, and I know in lecture 9, Mark talked about hydrozones, simply meaning you want to group plants that have similar water needs together on the same valve, because it just makes it so much easier to do your irrigation scheduling. So typically we're looking at very low, moderate, or high water use. So a low water use plant here in California might be a manzanita, an Arctostaphylos, whereas a high water use plant could be a hydrangea or your turf grass. If you have low water use plants and high water use plants on the same valve, then something is either going to get too much water or not enough water, depending on how you want to schedule your irrigation run times. So what we want to do with point source individual emitters at your plants is try to find a way to balance this out to make managing your water more efficient. And really, that's the whole idea of drip irrigation, is to make it more efficient by applying the water where you need it. So initially, when you're going to the nursery or your landscape contractor brings plants into the property, you're going to have various sizes of plants. You're going to have a collection of 1 gallon plants, 1 gallon sized plants. You're going to have 5 gallon sized plants. You're going to have 15 gallon, and you might even have some 24-inch box shrubs or trees. So let's take a look at the photo with the 15 gallon plant in it, because this depicts it very well. We've got a 1 gallon sized plant here to the side. You've got the 15 gallon, and there in the background, we've got some 5 gallon plants. And in looking at these, we can see that initially when they go in the ground, these plants are going to have very different rooting depths and rooting widths. And so we want to put enough water out to where the 5 gallon plants and the 1 gallon plants are balanced. We're not overwatering the 1 gallon plants to the point that water is disappearing well below the root zone. We want some to penetrate and infiltrate down, yes, because we want those roots to grow and expand into moist soil. But we don't want to waste the water by having it go too deep. Consequently, or conversely, we don't want to underwater our 5 gallon plants to where that root zone isn't getting enough water, and now they're going to go into a stress situation. What is the solution to this? Well, we have an Excel sheet that we're going to take a look at, and let's start with an irrigation plan that I have just completed, and it's here on the board, and we're going to take a look at this because it's going to show how I hydrozoned, how I zoned my plants out. So here's my irrigation plan. This is all point source, and here are my valves right over here ganged. I've got an isolation valve, a shutoff valve showing so that if I need to shut these down, if there's a leak at the valve, I can do that without having to shut down the entire main line. So just real quick, this symbol right here represents a 1 gallon low water use plant. There's no fill on the interior of this. These symbols here are 5 gallon low water use plants. This is a 15 gallon low water use plant. Then I have some plants that are shaded. This shaded one here are moderate water use. So this is a 5 gallon, same symbol, but it's shaded. It's a 5 gallon moderate water use. And these are 1 gallon moderate water use. And I even have a 15 gallon moderate water use down here in this corner. So this was a planting plan that was delivered to me. So I have broken this into ganging the 1 gallon and the 5 gallon plants together on the same valve. That valve right here. I've got my line coming out. This little jump right here just indicates that my line from this valve is not connected to this line running along the front of the property. And I'm putting all of my 1s and 5s on the same valve. So how do I know to do that? Well, let's take a look at this Excel sheet that I was talking about. So here I have 1-gallon plants, 5-gallon plants, 15-gallon plants, and a 24-inch boxed plant. And if I want to match my precipitation rates, now I'm taking an average. I've gone out to the nursery, I've made some measurements. A 1-gallon plant typically has a diameter of about 1.5 feet. A 5-gallon plant had a diameter of about 3 feet, looking at the canopy diameter in the pot, and then on with the 15 and the 24-inch box. If I do the math, then a 1.5 foot diameter is going to give me 1.77 square feet of canopy space. And the same with a 3-foot diameter is going to give me a little over 7 square feet. So these areas are what I'm going to use to help calculate this precipitation rate. And this Excel sheet is set up, and this is going to be provided for you in the resources. You can download this, and if you have Excel, then you can change the values based on your individual plants, what you're actually working with, and it's going to change the square footage, and it's going to change the precipitation rates to where we can match this. So let's take another look. When I'm using these values, my precipitation rate for a 1-gallon plant using a 1 gallon per hour emitter flow rate is going to be 0.909 or 0.91 inches per hour. If I put 4 gallons per hour over 7 square feet, I'm going to have the same precipitation rate, 0.909. So these two are matched. I can mix 1s and 5s together on the same valve, and if I use this emitter flow rate and this emitter schedule right down here that I've listed, then I'm going to have matched precipitation, and it's going to make my plants very easy, or my irrigation very easy to manage. The same with the 15 and the 24-inch box. The 15, I get a precipitation rate of 0.34. The 24-inch box, a precipitation rate of 0.32. That's plenty close enough as far as I'm concerned to be matched precipitation rate. And so that's how I can put this together. I'm showing out here how many emitters at what value, gallon per hour flow rate to work with to get these matched rates. And if I change the diameter on any of these, it's going to change my square footage, and it's going to change my precipitation rate. And now I can go back, and by just playing with numbers, the math is going to be done for you within the spreadsheet, and you can match your precipitation rates in that sense. And I think that's a really important thing in managing your irrigation and making your drip irrigation as efficient as we possibly can. So anyway, that's where I wanted to go with this very short but little bonus lecture on putting this together, making it work for you. Now you can go out, you can design a system for yourself or for a client. You can look at the water needs. In California, like Mark was saying, we have a water use classification of landscape species. If you're not in California or you're in another country, go to your local garden center, go to your local nursery, and talk to them about what are the water needs of these particular species based on your climate, your microclimate, and how you can balance these, mix your hydrozones together much more efficiently, and go from there. So anyway, that's where we're at, and I appreciate you watching this little bonus lecture, and I will see you on down the road.